10 dating questions that every high value woman needs answered. Hello and welcome to CHENGI'S world. My name is Chengi and you, my precious one, are my world. Welcome to those of you who are new to my channel, and yes, it is on and popping here, and I am going to be giving you the juiciest juice. Now, one of the things that I do with my clients when they first start working with me is I give them an ability to vet and to verify, to vet their prospects. Vetting them online before you go out, spend money on a dress, take time out, planning time out for a man. You have to make sure that he is worthy of your time and your attention. He's worthy of you getting yourself ready and spending the time and the money to do it. So how do you do it? You ask a set of very important questions. You do it obviously with stealth. Girls, we don't make a man feel like we're interviewing him, but we ask him a specific amount of questions in a specific way that is able to not only give us an answer to our question, but to give us insight. You see, here's the thing. If you ask a man a direct question, do you ever want to get married? He's going to say yes because he probably thinks that's your priority, and he wants to get laid, so yeah. But if you ask him an insightful question, a question that doesn't have a wrong or right answer, then you get to really understand his priorities. Now, I have been working with my clients and giving them these questions. I was actually creating them for the clients that sign on with me, because whilst I give them these questions off the top of my head, I hadn't really put together a list of questions. But as I did that, I thought to myself, you know, I remember being a single mom struggling to make it, didn't know where the next meal was coming from, and every time I needed to purchase something that would really help me in my game, it would just be way beyond my price point. So I wanted to create something that I could give you from the work I do with my paying clients that would give you value. And obviously I am there with them, hearing the answers to those questions, talking them through it. Obviously I'm not going to be able to do that unless you work with me one-to-one, but I did want to make these questions available. And what I've done for every question is I've put a reason for asking, what is it that you're looking for in the answer that he is going to give you. So I'm hoping this will be great value. Now, I have 50 dating questions that every high value woman needs answering in the program that you can get in the description link below for pittance, really. You are able to do that for very little from my website. You can check the link below, but I'm just going to randomly pick maybe 10 questions from the 50. Right, some of the things that we have to do too is before we go on a date, we need questions, things that are interesting and fun. So something as simple as something fun. We'll start with something fun and simple. What did you dream about last night? Okay, this is quite it's a question that has many angles to it. Dreaming can give us quite a lot of insight into what's going on in somebody's subconscious mind. It can also give us insight into what's going on in their spiritual mind. Now, everybody dreams, they say, but most people forget their dreams when they wake up. So they're like, I don't remember what I dreamt. But there's an opportunity for him to be flirtatious. You know, he can easily say something like, oh, I don't remember, but I wish I dreamt about you. That's kind of nice and funny, and it gets the banter going. But he's also going to ask you, what did you dream about? Okay, and there's an opportunity for you to answer it in such a way that you can give him some insight into you, or you can decide, I don't really want to give him insight. So, well, I dreamt about getting married on an Italian beach or something, you know, just to let him know this is where your mind is at. But he might actually give you an interpretation. He might actually give you his dream and say, it was really weird, this is what happened and that happened. You're like, gosh, I wish I could interpret dreams. But you know, that is information for you. But it's also fun. It starts the flirtations going. Usually, every time I've asked this question, any of my clients have asked this question, they just end up having a good time because it's such a fun question, so out of the box, so unexpected, and it really kind of makes it fun. So this is really great on a date if you want a bit of an icebreaker, you know, and it can also give you some insight. Right, number 2, this is so powerful, this question. All my ladies use this question first and foremost. It's fun, but it will give you so much insight. And that is, if I had a magic wand and could grant you 3 wishes, what would they be? Sometimes my girls will say, if I was a genie, if I was a fairy, just to make it a bit more fun. what would it be? If you had a magic wand, what would it be? Now this will give you insight, and you have 3 wishes, what would they be? Now these 3 wishes are gonna give you insight into the things that he believes are priority. Now if he says, oh, I would want all the money in the world, I would want to buy this and the other, and everything is materialistic, then know that this man is somebody whose priorities are really about things, and that if he were ever to choose between the relationship with you or things, he would probably choose things. But if he speaks about maybe he would end world poverty, or he would do something altruistic, then yeah, you know what I mean, then basically he's telling you that he has a bigger worldview, that he sees the world from just not about himself and what he wants out of his life. There are no wrong or right answers, but here what we're checking for is that we're compatible, that we're driven by the same things, that we see the world from the same position. It's very different from just saying, you know, what random acts of kindness have you done? But this is a chance for you to really narrow down into what he is. If he uses those 3 questions to say, oh, you know, razzle dazzle you so that you can be mine or whatever, even if one of those questions is, you know, he uses it to play with it, that's a bit of fun, that's completely fine, but it really gives you insight into who he is, and that is what matters, not how much he earns, not everything else. It's who he is, and this is what will determine whether you should give your time, attention to a man or not. Okay, number 3, a travel question. If you're somebody that loves traveling, or you're not really that keen on traveling, but you want to see where his head is at. So you can ask the question, if you could be anywhere in the world, where would you be and who would you be with? Now, this is important because it gives you insight into whether he's somebody that loves traveling. You also get to see where he's been or where he wants to be, but you also get an assessment on who he would take with him. Now, if he says, I'd love to take you with me, that's lovely because he's making you a priority. He's already putting you in his future, or he is attaching you to his best reality, right? So he's giving you a clue that you're definitely in there. I can see something between us that may go beyond the first date. Or he might just be trying to flatter you to get into your knickers. But nevertheless, it gives you an insight. But if he says, I will take my daughter, or take my mom, or take my sister, then that lets you know who this person values the most. Now, this information is important as the relationship progresses, because you then know who you really need to impress, because we know that we date somebody, but we have to impress more than them. Anybody that's wise enough knows that to win somebody on a permanent long-term basis and to be chosen by them for someone that they want to spend the rest of their life with, they have to impress more than you. Number 4, this is quite deep. When you die, what would you have put on your tombstone? This is really important if you want to know the things that he values, the things he's working towards, how he wants to be remembered. Most people don't ever get asked this question, but it really allows a man to step back from his whole reality and think, well, if he's a player, he hasn't really thought about it. He hasn't really thought about the life that he's creating and how he's showing up in the world. But if he's somebody of substance and of weight, then this is really going to impress him. It's going to make him know that you're the kind of woman who's really interested in the things that matter to him, and it's such a great conversation to have. Now, another question that is number 5 is, what is your biggest secret? Now, some of us would think, gosh, you know, he's never going to tell me. This is a question that you wouldn't ask necessarily at the beginning of a date. Now, what I've done, like I said, is I've put notes under every question. This is not something that you would probably ask at the beginning of a date unless you're really having a lot of fun and having a laugh and it seems to be quite an open talking environment. So this is something that you would ask maybe on the 3rd or 4th date when he feels very, very, very comfortable with you. But also remember, ladies, that when you ask this question will be knocked back to you. So when you purchase these 50 questions, my advice to you is for you to answer every single question for yourself. It's going to do 2 things for you. It's going to help you understand yourself more. The work that I do with my ladies, self-awareness, is going to help you understand yourself more, the things that matter to you the most. It's going to prepare you to answer the question back. But more than anything else, it's going to see if your answers match, if you are answering the questions the same way. A little bit like how some dating websites work. Now, let's go on and choose a sixth one. If I'm not doing this on the numbers not right, please forgive me. I'm just going randomly, so my mind is not quite catching up with me. But I'm going to give you, let's say, a sample of the questions. Another good question is, if I asked your best friend about you, what would they tell me? What would they tell me? Now, this is really interesting because you get an insight into his world, into how he perceives that his world perceives him. And usually we're quite right, because we get to really understand that people see us in some sort of way. So all of these questions are going to be sort of off guard. Now, I wouldn't go for all these deep questions all at once. These are things you want to pace between the first and the fourth date. When things are getting serious, then the questions become even more serious, because you want to see, how does his world perceive him? Now, one of the videos that I put up here about knowing how a man is high value is to understand how his world sees him. A high value man is esteemed and respected in his world. A low value man has no respect in his world. So this is a way for you to see how his friends and his families perceive him. Now, you don't have to use a best friend. You can say, how does your mom, if I asked your mom who you were, what would she say? What if I asked your sister? So you can play with that question and say, okay, that's what your best friend would say, but what would your mom say? What would your dad say? What would the people in your life say? Number 7, I'm hoping I'm doing this right. What are the things that annoy you? Now, this is a really good one to get insight into the things that annoy him. Now, if he says, oh, I get really annoyed when the house is really super messy, then you know that he's a very tidy guy. And if you know you're really messy, these things will really become a problem in a relationship. They really will become an issue. So you want to see if the things that annoy him annoy you too. If you can play along, people that kind of, do this and the other, and you're like, yeah, that annoys me too. That is something towards compatibility. They seem like really simple questions, but they're really important to know before you give your heart, because you can fall in love with somebody that you're not compatible with. So you need these questions asked. Now, another question that really deepens connection is, what was your favorite thing to do as a child? What was your favorite toy? What was your favorite game as a child? What you're doing is connecting deeply to his psychology and placing yourself into his childhood. And then that leaves him believing that you really are somebody he's not just met, but somebody that is very deeply within his world. Now, this works as well, guys, for girls. I know that guys watch. But the moment you start touching on somebody's childhood, you connect yourself deeply to them, and they start to feel like they've known you longer than they should. And we all love talking about our childhood because it reminds us of our inner child. And it's kind of fun. So don't be afraid to ask this question. Now, another question that is really good to figure out if he is a masculine or feminine is to ask him a question like, would you rather get laid than paid? In a relationship, what is more important to you? That the money is flowing or that the sex is flowing? So would you rather get laid than paid, or paid than laid? Okay, now if he says he would rather get paid than laid, he is operating in his feminine energy. He's looking for somebody who will provide, somebody who will protect, somebody who will cherish him. If he's looking to get laid, then he's definitely very much in his masculine energy, because most men, 2/3 of men, marry for sexual and sensual stability. So that lets you know that he's either masculine or feminine enough. Another random question is just to see how his mind thinks about polygamy, about faithfulness. If polygamy was legal, morally acceptable in our culture, how many wives would you have? Assume that he would have multiple wives. Don't say, would you have multiple wives, or would you choose to? Because he's going to say no if he is fairly decent and smart. But if you just assumed how many wives would you have, then he will throw a number at you, or he will say one is enough. So you want to see where he is at in the scale of faithfulness. You're never going to get the truth if you say, are you faithful? But you will definitely get an answer that will give you an idea of what this man needs to feel comfortable in a relationship. Is he comfortable with just one woman, or is he the sort of man who is only withholding from having one woman because he doesn't want to, it's not legal or it's not morally acceptable? Okay. Let's go for another question. Under what conditions would you be unwilling to save a life? Okay, so you want to see if this guy is a protector. You want to see if this guy has a protector mindset, and where on the Richter scale of protector he falls under. So under what circumstances would you decide, I can't really save that life? And if it's reasonable and it's like, well, under the circumstances where I am sure to die and they're sure to die, well, there's no point in losing both lives. But if it's kind of like, well, you know, if it's inconvenient for me to stop and to save the life, I'm going to keep going, then you know that this person hasn't got a strong sense of protection. And if you are a feminine woman, then it's protection that you really are after, and provision. So I'm going to leave it there because I have no idea what number I've got to. I'm so sorry for those of you who like things to be very methodically done. The questions are available. All 50 questions are available with the reasons why we asked them on my website. You can follow the link below and you can purchase them for peanuts. And you also get a free download copy of my international best-selling book, Position for I Do, How God Delivers Mr. Right When You Live with Power and Purpose, when you purchase these 50 questions and the affirmations, the 200 affirmations of a high value woman. So if you want more of these questions, make sure you download them in the link below. In the meantime, take care of you. Love you lots. Bye-bye.